Hello everybody, welcome to the Other Brother podcast with me, Ross Clark, and today I have my mate Scott with me. Scott, how are you?
I'm okay, Ross. Yourself? How are you? You good?
Mate, I'm loaded with a cold, but I'm soldiering through for the good of the podcast, mate. For
The
the good
good
of
of
the
the cause, eh?
podcast, oh yeah, for the good of the cause.
Another brother
But,
cause.
what's been happening, mate?
Not a lot, just working and trying to do bits and bobs, Ross. Just
Get,
getting on with it every day. You have to
just
just keep going, don't you?
getting by and getting by.
You have to keep going. You have to keep going.
Aye, now you are a very important guest, mate, 'cause you are somebody who taught me. Obviously, we done the Rangers Rabble podcast together when I was on there quite a lot.
You
We
did,
went
aye.
on, we went on a night out, spoke away
Aye.
all night, and then it wasn't until I started this podcast that you approached me, and more or less I realised I'm an ignorant bastard because I've never asked you anything about yourself. I'd never, and what a story you've got to tell, Kerr, especially on a podcast like this. So, got to take you, you can tell us, mate. What about your childhood and that? Growing up, how was that?
That was good. It was just like everybody else's. I was born in '72, so it was a wee while ago, Ross. Went to school out with my pals, used to just play fat outside in the streets, play Kirby. I was always slightly different, but I could never run as much as others. I always used to try and run with them playing football, but always found myself getting out of breath and just struggled at times. But I never gave in because when you're young, you don't. You just think I'll just keep going, don't you? And it wasn't until I was about 8. I went to my mum took me to the doctors because I was always going blue. My lips were going blue. My face, I was just feeling breathless when I was doing exercises and going swimming and stuff. And they said that might be a heart murmur, but I went up to York Hull at that time and they gave me a camera up my heart, into my heart, and they seen a hole. So I've got a hole in my heart. It's called Eisenmenger syndrome. So I was born with it. Obviously, if you're born nowadays with Ross, you can get it fixed when you're born. So not many people nowadays have this condition. But because of when I was born and technology advances, that's what I've got to live with. So I was told that. It never really bothered me. I had to learn to adapt. I was football mad, which I'm still are, but I could never really play. I could play to a point, but if I was, say, playing left back and then took a run up the wing, I couldn't get back. I was gubbed. No, that way. So I wasn't great that way. So it took me an interest in maybe watching it and studying the game a bit better. And I got on fine. I mean, I didn't drink corners because I was always in the back of my mind, don't do too much. Just in case, not in case anything happened. I just was always fearful because I couldn't do what my pals were doing.
Yep.
Do you know that way? And one of my wee mates who's passed away, he passed away when he was 19. It was a long while ago. He's cystic fibrosis. None of us knew that until I was in the hospital and he told us all he had it. But he was the same as me. He could never run about. He couldn't. He was always struggling. He used to drink every time he used to drink. He was vomiting blood and stuff like that. And when you're 18, 19, 17, you don't think things like that. You think you're invincible, don't you? You think it doesn't really matter what you're doing or what's wrong with you. You're going to survive and the next day will come. But he passed away. It kind of hit a chord. But I thought, well, I'm still okay. I started working in different places, done a YTS in the council, and I got a job in Shiffies in Paisley, the big whiskey place.
Yep.
It's not there anymore. Got a job in there. Everything was fine. I was going out with my pals at night, and then one day I didn't feel great after work. But I just went to my bed, and I woke up the next morning, and everything was spinning, but it was upside down. Without my eyes, and a doctor came in, got rushed to the hospital. I took a stroke.
What age were you then, Kerr?
22.
Right, I'm going to need to stop you before we get into the serious chat because I'm now worrying I've got a hole in my heart, mate. Because I can't run like any of my mates either, and I get out of breath. I just put it down to the weight, but I'm now starting to think I've got a hole in the heart. No, but in all seriousness, mate. So you're 22. You've took a stroke.
Yeah.
How is that? That is.
It didn't even sink in. They told me that at the hospital. It was a brainstem stroke I took. It caught my brain. I thought, right, I'll be fine. It was even much they done. It was just like they took a good load of blood away from me, and I started feeling a bit better. I started coming back, but I didn't feel great. But I could, my senses come back. Wasn't spinning. I could see, and I wanted to get up out the bed, even though I was tied to all these machines. And the doctor says, "Mate, you go up and walk. We'll let you go up the road." Couldn't walk. I had to learn how to walk again. My legs and body just went. I had to learn how to just steadily. Didn't take me long to be fair, but I had to learn again, left, right, left. And it wasn't something I look back on and think, my God, because it was just one of the things I had to do. I didn't look, but I don't look back in my story saying, I'm not sitting here saying this to you or anybody. I feel sorry for myself because everybody's got issues, everybody's got problems, and you have to go on with it. You do, you have to. But I just wanted, I just had to go on with it, because I wanted to go out and go back out and do stuff with my mates, and at the time I had a girlfriend and stuff like that. I didn't want to be a liability to anybody, so just go on with it. But I was out the game for a while. I didn't work for the next. Oh, it was a long time. I didn't work for. I was told I couldn't work, to be fair, to the hospital and that. And like I said, back then medicine was slightly different than it is now. I remember going up to the hospital one day with my mum. Up to it was the Western in Glasgow at the time.
Yep.
And I seen one of the surgeons up, no surgeon, one of the consultants up there. He's not a young guy, but he was he was a cocky guy. And we were talking away, and I said, I can't remember what exactly what he said, but I always remember him saying to me, I said, right, you'll be lucky if you see 40. And I just laughed, but I actually played in my mind for ages, and I still think about it now because I'm 49, and it's like to myself, well, I'm 9 years older than what you said, so, but things like that can play damage on you if you take it too seriously, do you know what I mean? Because my mum wasn't happy about it, but sometimes doctors throw away comments like that because, you know yourself, everybody, when you go and see anybody, whatever problem you've got, some people do care about you, some people don't, it's just a job for them at the end of the day, but you have to go, mate, Ross. I struggled up the road, and I was still staying with my parents at the time because I had to be, because I had to obviously get about and stuff. I could still do stuff like get dressed and go to the toilet and stuff like that, but just other things I couldn't drive because at that point, because I wasn't confident enough, and just wee things you look back and think might have been worse than it actually was, but you just have to go on with it. I can't remember a lot of it because it's when that happened, my mind did go quite foggy for a wee while after it because I just try to think stuff and go on with stuff, but it's one of the things. I don't look back with any sadness. I don't look back with anything. I just say, oh, that's a kick in the cars I've been dealt. I need to go on it.
Yeah, so obviously this being a mental health podcast, mate, I'm gonna need to take you back through that journey in steps.
Aye.
That must have been horrible. Hearing somebody saying there's a chance you'll never work again. That's got to be horrendous to hear that, knowing that you're a young guy at 20, 22, 23 and you're being told that you might never get back to your work. That must have really affected your mental health to start that, Kerr.
That's actually happened to me twice. So one was about 15 years ago. One was it's just when I had the stroke. Somebody says to me, "You know what? You'll not work again." It's just I've not really had. I don't know if I've had mental health issues or not. I've been down at times, but I'm one that sometimes I keep things to myself. But usually I'll go and talk to people because once I start talking, as you probably know, I don't shut up at times, and a lot of it's nonsense. But I just like to ramble on, and if you can ask my wife, who's probably been the best thing that's ever happened to me since I met her, to be fair, because she makes everything feel better. She makes me feel stronger, and she makes me feel like I can do anything because she's there, and that's just testament to her. But I think back then, mental health wasn't a big thing when I was that age. I know it's really big now, but you didn't have the stigma. You could have had it. I could have maybe gone through depression, but I wouldn't have told my mum and my dad that. And I just kept saying, I know yourself, and people say, "How are you today?" I'm fine. But I would lie in my room and watch videotapes or CDs, whatever it was back then, and you would just go, mate. I wouldn't go and tell folk. You'd probably tell your pals before you would tell your parents.
Because you don't want to feel as if you feel as if you're sad, then it affects your parents. You get into that,
You do,
and it's kind of a form of self pity, really, isn't it? Okay, I'm that bad. I don't want to put any of this burden on anybody else and stuff. But what I've found through my story is your parents know. Your parents know what's going on with you. They've got, especially your mammy. Your mammy's got that sixth sense, isn't she?
They do. I've been a parent myself, Ross. I do. And I know you. I know where you're coming from now. But back then it was like, nah. It was like everything you done when you're younger, minute. If you're out drinking or whatever else you done, or you wouldn't tell your parents, would you? And so even back then, if you're feeling down or sad or whatever, you just say to them, "I'm fine," and then just go up in your room and you like watch TV or read something. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like you don't want to go through your whole story and say, "Listen, I'm that," because you just feel you said earlier you don't want to burden anybody, especially your mum or dad who at the time are providing for you and working and doing other stuff, so you don't want to tell them all your stuff it's going to hit. You just think the more it'll be better.
Aye, and that's it. And I find myself that I used to do that isolating in my bedroom, and you just hope that the next day you wake up and you're fixed again.
Aye.
And it doesn't work like that. As you say, there's that many avenues and even things like this now for people that have got poor mental health, but I wouldn't have liked to have felt the way I feel now, or over the last few years, kind of 90s time when there wasn't as much an emphasis on it for the likes of doctors and stuff.
There isn't, you know, and I think when you're younger as well, like I said earlier, you feel more invincible, you feel like you can handle things better, but the older you get, I'm not saying it's fear you get, but you think different.
Mm.
So you maybe say, I do need help, or I'll go and talk to somebody, but when you're younger, you're like, I'll let it go. I'll just see how I do myself. Do you know what I mean? You just let things go by you.
Do you think, as a parent, it makes you more observant of your kids? Like my wee girl's going through a bit of a time in school now, and see, because as I spoke about before, I got bullied all through school, I'm really, really protective here, do you know what I mean? And really,
Aye.
I probably watch her more than I probably should, do you know what I mean? Because you're just waiting on something to happen, because it's bringing back memories for me as well. I think it's affected the way you parent going now, when obviously you had problems when you were younger.
I don't know. You'd have to ask the kids that. Sometimes, probably I can be maybe they'll think I can be annoying, but I'm maybe asking too much. Because I'm always, if you're unwell, I'll say, are you feeling alright? What's wrong with you? Or if I'm down, I'll say, anything bothering you? And I'll go into the room and ask them. And maybe say, Dad, can you get out? I don't want to speak. So maybe I was too annoying them, but you're probably right. You're just more worried about them because you don't want them to go through anything that you've been through, because they're your kids, so you don't want them to go through crap. You want them to have anything better than you did, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So 22, you have a stroke, you're told you'll never work again. And at this point in time, you've got how many jobs?
No,
Yes.
three.
There you go. So there we go, we're overcompensating already, Kerr. The doctors, you'll never work again, Kerr. Watch me. 3 jobs.
I know.
So what do you do the now then?
At this moment in time, I'm work with track and trace at NHS. So that's going to obviously probably be coming to an end in September. But before that, I was in NHS 24 for 16 years. That was actually my first job I really got into permanently. After I had this stroke, I went to college and done commercial photography. And I done a few weddings for my pals and stuff. But back then, I didn't know how to set up businesses and do stuff like that. I was doing some sports photography, some weddings, but I was never a big photographer. I just done it because I wanted to go back to learn something different.
Yep.
And I came out and I got a few jobs for agencies, but it was difficult when you're all seeing you go for a job and then you're like doing stuff and they'll say your employment record and you're sitting maybe in your late 20s and you know what, for maybe 8 years they'll ask you, like, why is this period here? And you're saying, well, I've got these issues. And back then it was harder. You go to, you fill a form and it's got disabled thing on it and stuff like that, but back then it never. And you say to yourself, they're not going to give me a full-time job with my record of being unwell and stuff. So it was agency work. And I got an NHS 24 temporary, and then I just managed to get in full-time. And I was there for 16 years until the track and trace, which I enjoyed. The only thing I didn't enjoy was the night shift, obviously, because that made you feel quite yucky at times. But I just like helping people, Ross. Talking on the phone to people who are unwell, or talking on the phone to people who are feeling suicidal, stuff like that. I'm going to say I like that, but I don't mean as in I like it as in what they're saying I like it as in I'm there to help somebody.
Yep. I think that's a big part of it, mate. When you've been through shit in your life, people think that you're doing stuff to help yourself, but I just I get enjoyment out of being able to help people. I get enjoyment out of maybe the likes of this morning, you're in the shop and there's a wee old lady and she's like 8 pence short on her thing and you're like, there's 10p. And that makes a old woman's day, and I'm like,
I know.
It was only 10p. Do you know what I mean? It's like, there's a lot of that. Yeah,
does it cost you don't have manners, Ross, does it? And in the world nowadays where so many people are looking to be offended by nonsense, just be nice to each other, man, because you've only got one life. And maybe it was different when I was in teens and 20s and you're like, I don't like that person, there's no point in lying to me. It's just live your life as well as you can, be nice to each other, because once you're not here, you can't go back and fix your mistakes, can you?
Aye, and that's it. As you say, it doesn't cost you a penny to hold a door open for somebody or to I think I've spoken about it on the pod before, but my new girlfriend, she goes mental because I walk about the street saying hello to everybody. I'm just that kind of person. See somebody makes eye contact with me, I'll say hello. She's
Aye.
like, who are you talking to this time? And I'm like,
Well,
I don't
I
know, they
stayed in
just
the
look
Ayrshire
at
for
me.
3 years doing Stuarton, and that's what everybody's like on a bit of village. They all say good morning to you and hello to each other. Whereas now in Paisley, you don't get that because it's different. You don't really make eye contact with somebody in case they want to fight with you. But
Aye,
you
I
know what I
mind,
mean? It's different than wee places because everybody's more friendly.
I mind I went to Paisley for a laugh one time and came home in stitches. So that's one of
Oh.
your jobs, mate. The old NHS 24. I've got my auntie actually works on the NHS 24 lines and on. She tells you some of the stuff that you must hear on. That's kind of it's very absurd right through to
As it
the
can be,
real
it can be
emergency.
very simple things, Ross, to something you're like, my God, what have I just heard here? But also you can have real stuff that hit you hard, like maybe somebody on the phone, like telling you they want to end their life, or somebody's done an accident, or somebody's on the phone is collapsed, and the person's lying on the floor not breathing. So you have to go into just work mode and fix
Yeah,
it. You can't panic. Do you know what I mean? It can be difficult, but you get used to it. And at the end of the day, if you can help save somebody's life or help somebody smile, that's what you're there for.
aye. You spoke a wee bit earlier on as well, and it brought me back to the doctor saying, "Here, you'll be lucky to see 40." That wee throwaway comment, and I've got a mate who's a retained firefighter, and he says it's the same. I know he went see if you go to a right harrowing accident. He's like, everybody in the truck came tries to make light of it. That's just how you deal with it, and I'd
Aye,
imagine that's what that kind of NHS rules and stuff are like as well, man. Because if you took that work home with you, that would really affect your mental health. If
I know that.
somebody's died on the other end of a phone to you and stuff, and that must be really hard.
It is, aye. Especially when you're phoning up to tell somebody on the phone. You know what I mean? And it's difficult. So it is hard, but at the end of the day, somebody's got to do it, haven't they?
Aye,
That's the way I look at it. And
as you say, it must be a rewarding job as well, because
it is,
you're
it can be
helping.
frustrating, it's rewarding, but what I always say, it doesn't matter what you do in life, if you treat people the way you want to be treated, then you'll be fine.
Brilliant, mate. So that's one of your jobs ticked off, right? What's job number two?
Yeah, I'm a counsellor. I'm not going to tell you what political party because I don't want to, but no, I'm a counsellor, but that finishes in May. I'm re-standing again, but I'm not going to stand for the party. I'm going to stand for myself because I don't always agree with parties, so I'm just going to stand as myself. I'll probably not get re-elected, Ross, because I'm only standing as an individual, as independent, but I just like to help people. Like the other day, somebody phoned me up and the woman was telling, I don't want to go at name, but she was telling me, but she's got issues because her husband's in the hospital and she's trying to get stuff done with her house for him coming home, but she's coming home a bit earlier, and that's when we're on the phone crying to and stuff like that. And it's just a shame. She's nobody else to turn to, so she'll phone you, and I might not always be able to help people when they get in contact with you, Ross, but see, even just replying to them,
Yep.
they've took time out of their day to get in contact with you. So at least you could do is reply, even if it's to say, listen, I can't really help you because there's not a lot I can do, but at least you reply. There's nothing worse than you getting in contact with somebody and somebody never replies back. That's just ignorance. It's just
Yep.
sheer nasty. And I would never do it to anybody, even if like I said, I have to say to them, listen, I can't help you at all. There's not a lot I can do in this situation, but I'm wanting to try and just stuff like that. It's always nice to be nice, so I'm going to stand myself, just run for myself. I'll probably not get in, like I say, because it's very difficult, but I just like helping people. I'm not really into the politics side of it. It's politics to me, it's a game of chess, and it's all for the camera. It's all a big act, and then the people don't even come second. Sometimes they come third. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? It's a shame because members of the public deserve better. They do, and I know we've all got issues and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, if you're in a bit of power, surely the thing you want to do most is help people. But
Yeah.
they don't. A lot of these people want to help themselves or other people in the same line of work before they'll help the people in the local areas, and it's not fair. And then they'll charge them through the nose for different things, and it's the system. The system is broke. Ross, doesn't matter where you look at it, but I just like helping people, and if I can help one person throughout a day with something, then I'm happy because at the end of the day, if I need help, I'll be looking for somebody to give me a hand.
See, that's for me that I don't know anything about politics, right? See, when I was at school, modern studies just wasn't my thing, and I've kind of followed that through don't really know anything about it. So you could maybe fill me in then. What does the day in the life of a counsellor look like?
You just obviously you've got a council budgets to deal with. It goes forward. Obviously you've got the administration in power, the party with the most seats, and then the second party, and then the third party, and the so it goes to votes where money goes and what money goes here and there, and then you talk about things getting done in the area and it maybe go to a vote. So one party might say I want this done, one party might say we should do it this way. Like I say, it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. I just like when people get in contact with you individually and say, listen, I've lost my disabled badge, can maybe appeal it for me? That's fine, I've done that in the past. Or I've got a leak in the house, I'm not getting it fixed, and the boulders are slow, or I need my hedge cut, or my bin's never been empty for 2 weeks. Stuff, stuff that actually annoy people day to day life. No stuff that happens at Westminster or Holyrood because that doesn't affect people day to day. It might go down the long run as a money wise, but if you wake up in the morning and your bins are overflowing because the bin man's not been it and you've got rats or cats, right, mice, whatever, that's going to annoy you, isn't it? So if you can
Yep.
get your bins emptied, that just says, well, that chap's ain't got my bin emptied, that's good. Or you want maybe your cupboard because you've got a disabled space in, or you want to get something built in the house and you're planning. Stuff like that. It's not hard to help people, it's how you go about it, Ross. And I'm about it as blindsided because I like politics, but I thought a lot of people were in politics to help people, but obviously you start that way and then the more money you make, that kind of wins away for you because it's all about the cash you can earn.
Aye. Aye. Mate, I've had my fair share of slating councillors in politics and stuff, especially obviously when I was homeless living at my ma's and you're giving it all that. I've paid my taxes all my life. I should pay first on the house, but that's just not how it works. Do you know what I mean?
It is, no.
Excuse
Because
me.
every single person that contacts you says to you their issue's more important than somebody else's. Even doesn't matter what it is. And it's difficult because you might have the intention of going and helping somebody, but then you go to the council and they say, oh, we can't do that. So you bring it to the big board council meeting and you put it in front of the council and it goes to a vote and then it ends up the rest of the councillors don't vote your way, so it gets thrown out. So
Yep.
you look like you've not helped anybody, but there's been so many brick walls put in the place, you can't help them anyway because it's not your fault. Even though you did say you could do it, but you can't because A's not helped you, B's not helped you, and C's told you we can't do it. So there's no really anywhere else you can turn. So a lot of it's helping other councillors and helping stuff so you can actually help people, but it's difficult, it's hard, and it's no fair because the public shouldn't be treated like this in the first place. But that's the system we live in, and that's until it changes, that's what we're going to have to put up with.
As I say, mate, just before we move on to your third job, I've not got any sort of knowledge of politics. So what's happening in Eastern Europe? Talk to me. Tell me what's happening. Make me feel okay.
I have not got a clue. I don't know if Russia's going to invade Ukraine. I know they've put soldiers in there this morning, said for peacekeeping duties, but would you trust Russia? I don't know.
It's a bit bonkers, isn't it? It's a bonkers situation. I was actually watching it last night, and it was a bit. I could feel my anxiety going a wee bit. They're talking about cyber hacking and this, and I was talking to Nicole, and I said that to her. I went like, it's mad. In the 90s, the internet never existed. Do you know what I mean?
No.
It was really new. See now, see if the internet was to get cut off, like, you wouldn't be able to do anything. We've become so reliant on technology.
See, I mean, your whole house is shut down because everything in your house is tagged to the internet, isn't it?
Mate, work, everybody's working from home. I'm like, if they were to say, obviously I don't know how easy it is to cyber hack and cut the internet out, but it was just the way my imagination was gone with the old anxious thinking and stuff.
But you look back even that situation there, Ross, all these people in power, like Putin and other people over there, they're fine, they're not going to be involved in this. They maybe make decisions, but they're out the way yet.
Yeah.
It's all the people in the streets and all the people in the houses getting shipped on buses and that for safety. What's going to happen to these folk? And then they maybe want to go to other countries for asylum and stuff like that. It's they don't think it long term, and you know yourself, any war makes money for somebody.
Yep.
That's the issue. Your money is always an issue for everyone.
It's mad. It's quite, as I say, obviously me having the overactive thinking and stuff, like I was struggling to get to sleep last night. I don't know if that was because I hadn't had my night nurse, as I told you before. I'm not very glad. The old night nurse has been putting me to sleep and waking me up feeling decent. I woke up this morning, I felt as if there'd been a war in my throat. Anyway, I digress, mate. So on to the third job. What are we doing? What are we doing for the third role?
I've been a football scout, Ross. That's the one I probably enjoy the best, to be fair.
Oh, I can imagine. I can
So
imagine.
it's the one I like the best. I've done it since I started at Crew a way back when I wasn't working anyway. That was the only thing I done was football scout, and I done it. I was lucky getting it. I got it through somebody I knew, but Crew asked me to just look at some players for them. Daryl Grady was there at the time, and his assistant, I can't remember his name. I don't know if it was Dave Wright, I think it was. I can't remember, but he asked me to come up and asked me to look at a few players I did, and then Huddersfield get in touch with me. So they did Tony Book at the time. Tony Book used to play in Man City. He was a famous player for City in the 60s and 70s. He get in touch and said, "Do you want to come and work for us? We don't get anybody up in Scotland." And I went there. And then at that time, he's like, "We'll pay you money." And I thought, well, this is great, man. Getting paid for this as well. And plus expenses. And I was there for 16 years at Huddersfield through different chart managers, different recruitment, chief scouts at the time they were called. And then obviously that new folk came in, get rid of everybody. And I went back, I came out the road and well, I stay here, but I came back to Scottish football and I worked with St Mirren for a year. So I did, which I was working with like youths, going out and watching boys football,
Yep.
young kids playing football, which as my son played at the levels and I coached at that level. It's great when you're involved in it that way, but watching it's no great. You've got to pressure the parents, and it's very difficult. Also, I don't know what you think, but watching somebody at 5 and 6 to see if they're going to be a football player, because as you know, guys at 5 and 6 can be bigger built than guys at that age, but everybody kind of catches up later in years, don't they? And it all starts to even itself out. So it's difficult to bring boys in, but just what football clubs do, try to monopolise and get all the best players at that age into their academies and stuff like that. It's a business, the academies, and I don't like them that way. I preferred like when I was younger. Well, obviously I was never fit enough or good enough, but when boys used to go and sign S forums with clubs, but that's when they were 15, 16, they would play with their school teams or they play with youth clubs until they were 15, 16, sign an S form with a club, and then turn pro at 16. But now we're in academies for what, 6?
Yeah, aye, that's Kickers, in it. There's the Kickers League or whatever
But
it's
even
called.
if a club wants somebody, I mean, you see in England, boys getting bought for money at age groups and you never hear them playing football.
Yeah.
And it's shocking the way some kids are treated, but even agents have got very young kids in their books in places. Do you know what I mean? I think it's very hard. It's hard for the kids. It's hard for the boys because a couple of my son's pals when he was younger were really good players and they were at St Mirren at Morton. And now the boys don't play football. They just get sick of it. They've never made it. But instead of just playing football as we all start to play football when you're young, is to play with your mates. You enjoy the game and you play it because it's fun. But I
Yep.
think some of these academies knock the fun away from football. So when you do get released or you don't make it, you say to yourself, I'm not playing football again. It's just terminating off that sport, and it's hard that way because at the end of the day it's a sport and it's played to be fun. It's not played for seriousness, but as a business at the end of the day, because if these academies bring through one boy, you can make them millions of pounds, and that's the way they're looking at it.
But what I get back to, there was a boy I was at school with, and he played with Livingston, and ended up going on to Livingston, and then he played with Clydebank and a few other teams, and when he used to come to school, used to have to be very careful because he's signed for Livy. He's playing with Livy, but he's also in kind of fourth year at school. And don't get me wrong, the boy was a wonderful football player, but he used to have to be dead careful. And he used to play football at lunchtime. He used to have to sneak his boots in his bag and all that because he wasn't meant to be playing at lunchtime. And that was the first I kind of realised that obviously Xander, he got picked up with Celtic at 9, and then he was there for 2 years. Left Celtic, went to Rangers. Done 2 years there, went to Hamilton, got an injury, left. So, but he was always at training. Do you know what I mean? Like I never realised. Like my mum and dad, when Xander played with Celtic, my mum used to have to finish work at 3 o'clock. Xander finished school, get him on a bus, get him to Barrowfield for 2 hours training, and then get him home again. Do you know what I mean? And there's a lot to be said for the parents of these kids as well, because you don't realise how many of these kids, if they get scouted, say you scout a boy and you get in touch, their mum and dads automatically think, oh, this is their big chance, even if they are
Aye.
7. Do you know what I mean?
It's a
And
big time, aye.
it's quite a shame. Obviously, Xander's a success story. He get picked up at 9, but every other boy that he played with at that time, you'd be lucky if there's a handful of them made it in the end. Do you know what I mean?
I
So it
mean,
puts a lot of
many go through an academy in a season, but many actually had a first team.
pressure on. I think it puts a lot of pressure on parents as well, because they think that the kids don't get to be kids. If your kid's
No.
getting picked up at 7 on an S form, you've got them out of training twice a week. They're eating good food. They're not getting a McDonald's and all that. Do you know what I mean?
I'm not playing with their pals that much, so I'm not seeing a lot of stuff. And then once they get released, they can end up, it can turn against them. You thought you were a big bully, big boots, but now you're being released, now stuff like that. So it can affect
Yeah,
them that way as well. So, and that's why you probably see kids, young kids, having problems with mental health because the pressure they put on them at that young age, they can't hack it.
it's this. I mean, I talk about it on every podcast because it is. It's the biggest evil in the world now. Social media.
Aye.
The likes of that. My boy's playing for Celtic. My boy's this. My boy's that. And the wee boys are like 8 or 9. Or that's him being accepted into the academy, and it's as if. And right away, then, as you say, see if the kid gets released the next year, it's as if the world's came down, tumbling down on them, and they're like 8 or 9 years of age. Like,
And you ask yourself, who's the most devastated, the kid or the parents?
well, that's that. So obviously, 20 year of scouting, Kerr, you must have scouted a few big players. Give us a couple of names.
Scott Arfield,
Scott Arfield,
Falkirk to
no,
Huddersfield, aye.
brilliant. He's my favourite. Can we give us a look? Will we do a
Aye,
salute?
Scott, I watched Scott a good 20 odd times one season for Falkirk. He had to go, man, he was too good for Falkirk. He had to jump England and went to Huddersfield, so he did. And Cal Higginbottom as well took to Huddersfield for Falkirk.
Kelty
Who's new
Hearts
at Kelty
hero.
Hearts, aye.
Kelty Hearts
Like Kelty
hero,
Hearts,
aye. Don't, we better not mention him. I think it was him. I think he might have upset my brother recently.
Callum Woods, it was at Dunfermline, mate, at Huddersfield and all. Boy, he was a left back, he was a scouser, but he put up with Dunfermline. And Matt Glennon was my very first signing, St Johnson keeper, went to Huddersfield.
Right. Brilliant, mate.
So he was an Englishman and all, he went to Huddersfield. So it's just know yourself, you get told to go and watch some people. So they've had to get guys and read that because they get a lot of information from other sources, don't they? And they'll
Yep.
say to you, go and watch him and see how good he is, and then send us back a report if he's that good, and then maybe they'll come up and watch him. If they come up and watch him, they think, yeah, that's fine. I mean, the one that kind of got away from me was John McGinn. I pressed John McGinn for years to Huddersfield at the time, but I was told they can't run. He's not good enough. He's at his level at St Mum. Then they went to Hibs. But that time I was at another club, so I pressed him. Nah, he's not good enough. If he was this good, why is he still at Hibs?
Yep.
And look at him now. I was always something about John McGinn. I watched John McGinn. I was lucky enough. I seen John when I was at St Mum coaching. Well, not coaching, scouting. I used to go to the academy quite a lot, and John would come down and train the boys. But I would watch the first team training at times when they were in, and you could see then he was still growing, but he had something different compared to everybody else. Now you
Yep.
can just spot a player, and you can see the way he plays with Aston Villa. He's head and shoulders above a lot of our Scottish players at the moment. So he is.
And at one point, maybe 10 years ago, they would have said he was too wee to play in Scottish football.
Aye, easily.
Too small.
I was going to say when I first started this, my two things I was told to look for was athleticism, pace, and good build. It's not really rocket science, is it? Because that doesn't really tell you every player's not going to be built like that, are they?
No. And the thing with wee McGinn is the fact that he's so good is probably because he's so small, but he's got that stocky build, because that's what he does, innit? But uses his body to shield the ball and play. Similar to when you watch us, Aribo, he's got the big long dangly, so he can hold people off miles away, whereas McGinn being shorter can get his body in the road. He's a great player. I must admit, for me and you being Rangers fans, I was mightily glad when he ever ended up at Celtic, put it that way.
No, John was always a good player. I've watched him at St Mirren a long time. My dad's a big St Mirren fan, so he used to rave about him. He was just, I know McGinn, there's a few McGinns in there, but he's head and shoulders above the brothers, isn't he? And you can see, you watch Villa and he still stands out with Villa. To be honest with you, I don't think he'll be at Villa for a long time. I think he'll maybe go elsewhere because he's probably good enough to go to another team.
even for Scotland now, he scores a lot of big goals
Aye,
for
aye.
the middle of the park.
He's a really good player, John Sawyers, I have to say. But it was him. There's a few other players. I mean, Ryan Jack was one that got away. He joined Rangers at the time. Barnes were trying to sign him. Yeah, there's been others. It's just your luck. It's if you can agree to deal with the club and stuff like that. Ryan Christie, another one that was at Inverness at the time, joined Celtic. He was never really turned down Celtic. Marley Watkins signed for Barnsley for Inverness at the same time. I recommended him. Marley was a good player at Inverness. He scored a goal in the cup final. So he did for Inverness, Marley. So it's just being at the right time, picking a player. Got to watch a game, sometimes just off the cuff and somebody stands out and you think, that boy's decent, I'll go back and watch him a few times. I never really take first I never really go on your first watch because they can have a good game.
Mm-hmm.
So I always like to watch somebody maybe 3 or 4 times. I know nowadays a lot of it's done you get videos and that to watch players, which is okay. You get new Ross what everyone's done by stats.
Yeah.
Stats,
XGs.
right?
XGs.
And stats are good, I have to say, but I still prefer watching somebody.
I think you can twist stats to suit any agenda.
Aye, you can, aye. But
Uh,
everyone's done my stats and let's say video, watching players in video is okay, but I want to just watch him at a live game. I know you're a videos you can say, well, that's a live game as well if you're watching it live, but just being there watching because I just feel the camera doesn't always follow the player. When I'm going to watch a player, I'll follow the player and I'll watch what he does off the ball because watching stuff off the ball is probably more important than watching at times what he does on the ball.
yeah.
And even
So,
watching him in the warm up and stuff, it might be a half arse in the warm up, but watching a player nowadays, Ross, it's not even about you watch him a few times and say to the club he's good. It's everything involved that you mentioned earlier. Social media. If I caught saying anything in social media or acting a plank in social media, they will not touching him with a barge pole. Do you know that way? So you have to watch what you do outside of football as well, not even just what you do in a park anymore.
that's it. Inker. Two players in the SPFL the now who could play at higher levels. You've obviously got Morelos, who's for me nobody's come in for him because of the aggro that goes with him and the bad reporting and stuff that goes with him. And then you've obviously got the boy Porteous at Hibs. I see him in the paper the day accused of acting like in a Daytona night suit. It does almost come into the equation when a team's scouting a player, if he's going to miss 3 or 6 games every half season through red cards or through retrospective action or something. That must all come into it, which is a big part of the. You see social media at the weekend, Mulgrew Jack's tackles, like 10 years ago they would never have been spoke about after a game. So does that come into
No.
when you're scouting? Is that something you're looking at as well, kind of temperament and
I do, aye, but I don't look at their social media pages, but I know the clubs do, aye. The clubs look at their Facebook pages, Twitter, other social media accounts, just in case they're saying offensive or doing anything stupid, do you know what I mean? But you do
yeah,
look at temperament and stuff like that, how they act, and you look at if they talk in the park, if they don't talk, as I was saying, you like to win for warm up to see how they, I mean, warm up, just to see how they are
yep,
before the game starts and after the game, do you know what I mean? But because everything, even if it's a small thing, that has to be taken into account. So watching the ones doesn't work for me. You have to do it a few times, but it's a lot of pressure on football players nowadays, especially high profile ones, because what's a joke to you might not be a joke to somebody else, so they have to watch what they do and what they say because people are easily offended nowadays by all sorts, and that's just the world we live in, I'm afraid. But people just have to be careful, especially famous people, what they do. It's not hard, but sometimes if you want to have a joke, laugh to yourself. Don't spread it on social media because once it's on social media, it's very difficult to get back.
aye. That is the bad party. Social media. Obviously, you're scouting for a club the now. We'll not mention the club you've been watching. I know you've been at a few Scottish games recently. Who's
Yeah,
taking your fancy in the Scottish game the now?
just watching guys being away between 18 and 27 just to see if anybody pops out. There's a few players, don't want to say any names, Ross. There's a few players I like myself, but obviously it's up to the manager, it's up to the budgets, it's up to the players. And you prefer if a player's free because it's not going to cost you that much, the transfer money gets involved. And the wages don't as much and everything comes into it. But there's a lot of good players in Scotland, I think. I think some people look at the Scottish Leagues Ross and think, nah, it's just Scotland, there's no, but there's a lot of decent players up here, especially young Scottish talent. It's just sometimes need a chance. It's
Yep.
like you probably see it in England as well with players like Sancho and other players going to Germany to play because they're never going to get a chance with their bigger clubs. So probably same up here. If they go elsewhere, they might get a chance. And there's players at Hibs, there's players at Hearts, there's players at Aberdeen, there's young players. Everybody. I seen a young guy on Saturday for Aberdeen, Connor Barron, that played for Aberdeen. The first time I've seen him, and he looked actually really good. The young boy in middle of the park, next to McCrory, and I see Goodwin played McCrory centre mid, defensive mid, sorry,
Mhm.
which was probably Ross's best position because he's more mobile, but he looked good as well. But there's a lot of good players in Scottish football. It's just the guys need a chance, and I think somebody like Alec Lowry at Rangers could set the head on fire, as we know. But is he ever going to get a chance? Being a young boy, Ewan Henderson, that's went from Celtic to Hibs, he's a good player as well. Will
Yep.
he ever get a chance at Celtic? That's the thing.
That's the thing with old firm, innit, really. Obviously, me and you on the Rangers Rabble last year used to wax lyrical about young Ali McCann, who
Aye,
obviously I watched through watching Xander, but I know that you'd seen him in games and stuff, and people just turn their noses up because he's young and he's British. Like,
aye.
this doesn't make any sense to me.
No, Alan McCann stood out. I mean, he's playing North Ireland, wasn't he? Isn't it? Against
Yeah.
other countries. He was playing next to Stephen Davis, so he's getting experience for him. But because you play with St Johnson doesn't mean you're not going to be a good player in the Championship in England. I mean, John McGinn went for Hibs, remember? To Aston
Mhm.
Villa in the Premiership. So look at Andy Robertson. He went for Queen's Park to United to Hull City and then at Liverpool.
Yep.
So it might take a few clubs, but there's players there.
Magic, mate. Scott, thank you very much for giving up your time, mate,
No bother.
and for opening up, obviously, on your health and stuff. It's a different kind of pod today around mental
Well,
health.
I was going to say, you mean, obviously, I've got a few other issues like problems in here. I've got a lump in my neck which has been getting investigated for cancer. It's no cancer, but I think they're going to obviously still take it out. But I
Right,
did go back to college a few years ago in counselling.
right.
So I've got qualifications in being a counsellor. I've done my CBT stuff. I've done my humanistic stuff, my behavioural stuff. So I know all that. Just because at the time people in the family were going through some issues, anxiety and stuff, especially my mum because she retired and she was having a lot of issues. So it was all something I was interested in to help people. And because I used to speak to people in NHS 24 on the phone, I wanted to learn more about it, how to speak to people better and how to give them a bit more advice and just say what you sometimes say because
Yep,
sometimes you're not asking, you're not saying something, you're asking a question so they can give you more details and stuff like that. So it was very interesting in back to college unit. There's a lot of different therapies out there, and I think there's not enough money involved in therapies in Scotland for people from all different backgrounds, especially I deal with a lot of people for addiction area. I was at college, a boy who suffered from addictions for years. This boy went through, and he was there to study as well to be a counsellor. And this boy he could tell you stories that you just wouldn't believe. But
yep.
I mean, if it wasn't for a lot of these charities setting up places himself, there isn't a lot of help for people. Ross, you know what I mean? It's a disgrace because you get you get the mental health therapies. My mum's had it through the NHS, and it's like what 6 or 8 sessions. That
Yeah.
doesn't cure you. That doesn't help
No.
you. And it might be just the one CBT. It might not even be. I mean, that might help one person, but it might not help another 100 people because it might. Everybody's individual, so everybody's got different needs, and it's. I know it's going to cost a lot of money, and that is a big thing at the moment. But should we not be trying to put a wee bit more effort into helping people? Because if we can help people and then they can help each other, would that not benefit us in the long run? Because there's so many different issues out there just now. It needs help, and mental health is just one of them. But I was intrigued, and that's why I went back to college and got my certificates and stuff like that, and get involved in it. I can take it further. It's just obviously time and money, but I like what it does because I like to be able to even just sit down with somebody and let them chat to me for an hour without even saying anything back. Because sometimes that's what people look for. They don't always look for an answer. They just sometimes look for an ear.
Yeah, somebody just to listen to what they're saying. Mate, I didn't want to, I wasn't too sure whether I was going to come on to the recent health scare, mate, but I'm glad to hear that it's not as bad as it could have been. So how scary a time is that, Kerr, when you're going through that?
I was trying to make jokes here. I was my wife and my mum and that. I was saying I'm not worried, but I was actually I was
Of
actually
course,
shitting myself to be
of
fair.
course.
And that day I went to Queen Elizabeth. My wife, the consultant sat us down and said, right, we just have a seat first. Just as soon as you said that, I shot myself. I thought she's going to tell me something here. And then she's like, she went through all the different things and brought up different photos of the way the scan was and all that. And I'm actually sweating from the inside out. Do you know what I mean? I didn't know what to think. My heart was beating dead fast. And then she says, right, it's benign. I was like, oh, fine. But she says it's growing, so I'm going to have to get it removed. And I'm still waiting. I'm going back up there at the end of March to look more into it. The only thing is, Ross, I can't go under anaesthetic for anything. Whenever I've been under operations, I've always been awake. So I'm going to have to be awake for this as well.
Oh, I don't fancy that.
I think they don't put me under. They're going to have to probably just give me a spinal block and then get it inside of my neck.
Right.
So I'm all looking forward to it because I've had a couple of hernias and I've had done just lying waiting. The worst thing about the hernia operation was, Ross, the guy put on Ross Stewart, and that was worse listening to Ross Stewart through a 3-hour hernia operation.
I've only been awake for one process in my life, and I'm going to share this anyway, but I'd had my second wee girl, and I was like, don't want any more kids, so I went in to get a vasectomy.
Wee snip.
Wee snip, so I'm lying on the table, and I was only 26, so I'd been up for all the sessions and stuff before it, and they agreed that I could get it, and I went up on the day, and the woman's like, you're too young, I'm not doing this. And right away I went, no, you need to do it. So they've lay me back, right? Now I'm a wee bit fainty sometimes.
Right.
So they've lay me back, and right, I'm just going to clip, right, okay, done all the procedure. So I'm lying on my back, and the next minute I'm like, what's that smell? What's
Try yourself.
They were mate, they were cauterising the two ends, and I've looked up, mate, in the full room. There was just a big plume of smoke, and that's my balls are on fire.
Jumpstart you.
So he goes like that to us, look, this is, and I can feel my eyes rolling back in my head. And the guy's like, you need to stay with me, we've only done one side. If you fall asleep, we can't do the other side.
Why can't I go to sleep? You obviously just need to make sure you're alright when you're going through it, and that's how you have to keep you awake.
It's just a general anaesthetic. Is it not a general anaesthetic? A local anaesthetic or whatever it is.
Just to numb the area.
So I'm lying on the table here, and then I've started fainting, and he's like, I need to get the blood back to your head, and I've done that, bump, dump me. They done the full operation at a 60-degree angle, me as if I was living in Australia upside down. So that I didn't faint.
Hanging everywhere.
So mate, I don't envy you having to go through a kind of serious operation like that. Not that me getting my balls pumped wasn't serious, but you know what I mean.
No, it's one of the things. If I have to go through it, Ross, I need to go through it. I'd rather get it. It is getting bigger, and it's getting to a stage where it doesn't bother me if I'm moving about people I know, but see when I'm out moving about people I don't know, you get to that stage where you help nobody look at that.
It's a wee bit self-conscious. 100%, mate. Yeah, Kerr, I've kept you here for nearly 50 minutes, mate.
That's alright.
I never meant to keep you this long, mate.
That's alright.
Again, for anybody listening, watching, who has liked the conversation or struggles with their mental health, like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Kerr, thank you very much for coming on the pod.
Been a pleasure, Ross. Been a pleasure as always, talking to yourself.
Magic, mate. Thank you very much, and I'll catch everybody next week.